controller to handle requests directly by executing business logic or to delegate the request to service DAO class. Handler class will be there, which is also called controller. Okay, na? Right. Next, view components will be there. JSPs, HTML, in future Angular, jQuery, this kind of. But to decide which result should be formatted by which view component, it takes the support of one special component called view resolver. View resolver is not view. View resolver is there to resolve the view. Resolve means to identify the view. Are you getting my point there, guys? Next, what is there? Handler mapping. There are so many handler classes to tell that which request trapped by dispatcher servlet should go to which method of which handler class is decided by whom? Handler mapping. Simple theory, guys. There are so many handler classes. Which request should go to which handler class and which method of handler class is decided by handler mapping component. There are so many view component and which result should go to what? Which view component for formatting is decided by my whom, guys? Is decided by whom? View resolver component. Okay, view resolver, handler mapping, both are helper components for dispatcher servlet towards deciding right handler method of handler class, towards deciding right view component for, okay, formatting the results, right? Okay. Nothing great, guys. If you keep these things in mind, you will enjoy the flow of execution like anything. Yeah. Spring Boot MVC, boss. What is there? Spring Boot MV. This is my session 2. Save open. Spring MVC, Spring Boot MVC is designed around a predefined front controller servlet called dispatcher servlet. Everything happens with respect to dispatch servlet. That means all operations and flow in the web application takes place under the control of what? Dispatcher servlet. Simply, literally under the control of what? Dispatcher servlet. The main components of Spring MVC or Spring Boot MVC application are dispatcher servlet, handler or controller classes, handler mapping, view component, view resolver. It's a ready-made front controller, dispatcher servlet, handler or controller class. In small application, the methods that are there in handler class are called handler method. Either they directly process the request by executing business logic. In large scale application, they delegate the request to whom? Service and DAO classes, right? Okay. Handler mapping. Array front controller servlet, dispatch servlet trap multiple requests, no? Yeah. It will send right request to right handler class with the support of handler mapping component or not, guys. Simply with the support of handler mapping component, it will send right request to right method of handler class. Next, what we got? View components. What components, guys? They contain presentation logic to format the result. To send right result to right view component, we take the support of what? View resolve. We definitely take the support of what? View resolver. Everyone understanding my statement here, guys? Okay. Handler mapping is helper component that identifies correct handler or controller class to handle the request trapped by dispatcher servlet. View resolver is the helper component that resolves or identify correct physical view component. Are nothing but physical HTML file, physical JSP file. Okay. and view component name and location to format the result by executing what presentation logics. To send DS, or now onwards DS means not data structure, dispatcher servlet. DS trapped request to appropriate handler method of handler class. We need the support of handler mapping component. To send and format the handler method generated or gathered results by identifying appropriate physical view component like JSP. We need what? View resolver component. Are you getting my point there, guys? Super. Okay. Servlet component is not identified with its class name. It is identified with its URL pattern, na boss. Spring Bean is not identified with its class name. It is identified with its bean ID, na boss. Controller class handler method is identified with its request path that is given in what? At the rate request mapping annotation. What annotation, guys? At the rate request mapping. Listen. Public class my controller, on the top of the class we write controller to make it controller. This is the one handler method, guys. Show home page is one handler method. Now onwards this method is identified with what request path? Slash welcome. Slash welcome. Every handler method of controller or handler class is identified with its what? Request path. Are you getting my point there, guys? Super. Controller class is identified with the controller class bean ID. Lot of handler methods are there. Each handler method is identified with its what? Method level request path, which will be given by using request mapping annotation or not, guys. 20 methods are there. 20 request paths will be there. So that whenever dispatcher servlet traps a request, handler mapping takes the support of this request path to tell whether this request should go to which controller class and which method of that controller class. Right, boss? Array, servlet container traps a request from browser and sends to write servlet component based on URL pattern of the servlet only, na? So here dispatcher servlet trapped request will be given to handler mapping. Handler mapping links that request to what? Appropriate handler method of appropriate controller class based on request path of the handler method or not, guys. Super, guys. To configure Java class as a Spring Bean come controller or handler class, we need controller annotation. To configure method of controller or handler class as what? Handler method with a request path. We can use at the rate request mapping annotation. One handler class can have what? Multiple handler method with a unique request path. One, guys? With a unique request path. Okay. Handler controller class comes under model layer if the business logic or request processing logics are kept directly in the handler method. Handler or controller class comes under what? Controller layer. If request delegation logics to interact with what? Service DAO class are kept in what? Handler method. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Okay, now listen carefully. Out of these many components, only two components we develop, guys. View components, handler classes. Remaining all are ready-made. You need not to develop them, but we have to configure them though they are ready-made, right? Okay. So let us try to understand the flow. But before understanding the flow, let me register one thing. How request should be processed is decided by handler class, handler method, right? Come on its own or by talking to service DAO is decided by handler class, handler method na. But dispatcher servlet traps all the requests. Which request should go to which handler method of which handler class is decided by handler mapping component or not, guys. Super. All results will go to view components. But which result should go to which view component for formatting is decided by whom? View resolver. Observe very carefully. Everything is under control of dispatcher servlet. Are you getting my point there or not there? So let us try to understand the flow, guys. In the flow, what are those? Browser is there generating request. This is the web application, Spring MVC web application. Dispatcher servlet is there acting as front controller. Handler classes are there to handle the request on their own or by talking to service or DAO. Okay, handler mapping is there helping from dispatcher servlet to identify what? Correct handler method of handler class to process the request, right? Okay. Next we have got what? Okay. View component to format the result. But to identify correct view component to format the result, we have taken the support of what? View resolver component. We definitely taken the support of what, guys? View resolver component. Are you getting my point there or not there, guys? Okay, guys. Yeah, what is number one? Number one is we deployed the Spring MVC web application in web server. Number two, because of load on startup that is enabled on dispatcher servlet is pre-instantiated. In that process, init method of dispatcher servlet execute. Inside that init method, logic is there to create application context IOC container. Are you getting my point there? By taking one or other class as configuration class. Because of that, all singleton scope Spring Beans are pre-instantiated, like handler mapping, view resolver, controller classes. Because JSP files are not Spring Bean, they are pre-instantiated. Necessary injections are done and they kept in internal cache for future utilization are not there. That means number one, deployment. Number two, pre-instantiation of dispatcher servlet, IOC container creation, pre-instantiation of what? Singleton scope Spring Beans are taken place. Convinced with me or not, guys? Come on, my dear. I want reply. Okay. That is number four, guys. What is that? Number two. Number three. Okay. End user is giving a request to Spring Boot MVC application. What application? Spring Boot MVC application. Are you understanding my statement, guys? End user is giving request to Spring Boot MVC application. That is number three. Number four. Dispatcher servlet traps and takes a request. Dispatcher servlet traps and takes the request and applies the common system services or not, guys. That is number four. Number five, dispatcher servlet handovers a request to handler mapping. Number six, handler question mark means searching. Handler mapping searches for all the handler methods in all the controller classes who is having request path info. What is the last word? What is the last word? Info. Yes. It is also looking for what? Handler method whose request path is info. Let us assume available. Let us assume available. Are you getting my point? Pritham, I have already shared. Maybe you are having issues. Guys, online student, please confirm. Is everything perfect? Controller classes and all the handler method whose request path is what? Info. And there should be some commonality na boss. Some URL. In the request URL, some info is there. It looks for what? That handler method in all controller classes whose request path is info. Number six is that. Number seven. Handler mapping component collects the controller class bean ID, default bean ID, and this handler method signature, that is number 7, and passes to dispatcher servlet. Passes to dispatcher servlet, that is 7. Number 8, what dispatcher servlet will do, submits the controller class bean ID to IOC container that is already created, collects the controller class object. On that object, it will call handler method because already signature is there, na? That is number 8. Number 9, handler method executes. Now execute. Earlier identified. Now executes. Either directly process the request or by talking to service DAO, process the request, somehow gather the results. Come on, guys. Keeps those results in a scope. Let us assume request scope. What scope, guys? Okay, but it does not return the result to dispatcher servlet. It number 10, it returns one token related to view component, one token, one identity name, logical view name, token to dispatcher servlet. It is not returning result. It is not returning view component name. It is returning only token, identification token, right? Why, sir? Are results already kept in request scope? Whoever having same scope access, they from there we can access the result. Why you are not giving physical JSP component name or view component name? Tomorrow I am changing technology of view from JSP to Angular. If I write the physical JSP component name, again I have to modify the source code to what? Angular, na? Was that headache is there or not there? Definitely that headache is there or not there, guys? Definitely that headache is there, no doubt in that. Okay, returns what, guys? Logical view name to dispatcher servlet. Returns what, guys? Logical view name to dispatcher servlet. Are you understanding my statement, my dear? Come on. A token kind of thing. Yeah. Dispatcher servlet submits that logical view name token to view resolver. This view resolver somehow connected with the properties file. There it submits the logical view name, collects the name and location of the physical view component, name and location of the physical JSP component. Okay, guys. Yeah, view resolver sends the name and location of the physical view component back to dispatcher servlet. What is that, guys? Back to dispatcher servlet. Convinced with me, my dear? Come on, everyone. Back to dispatcher servlet. Name and location of the physical view component back to dispatcher servlet. I hope you understood my statement, guys. Okay, in the form of view object, some object, guys. Name and location of physical component is given to dispatcher servlet. Now, dispatcher servlet collects name and location of the physical view component, executes it, having presentation logic. This presentation logic reads the request scope data. Already results are there in request scope now, and it is accessing that request scope data. Indirectly dotted arrow, not direct arrow. Yeah. This dotted arrow indicate results kept in request scope, now gathered and formatted by what? View component. So now these formatted results comes to whom, guys? Dispatcher servlet. These formatted results comes to whom, guys? Dispatcher servlet. Okay, now tell me. Dispatcher servlet sends these formatted results to whom, guys? Uh, Dispatcher servlet sends these formatted results to whom, guys? Browser. That is number 14. This is number 15. Come on. Okay. And those formatted results will be displayed in the browser as a dynamic web page content or not, guys. Simply as the dynamic web page content. What content, guys? Okay. Dynamic web page content. Dynamic web page content. Are you understanding my statement, boss? Come on, everyone. Super, guys. This is the flow, guys. This is the flow. Nothing is there. Everything is happening around the dispatcher servlet or not. Did you realize that? Okay, once again, see the flow. I deployed the application, number one. Number two, because of load on startup that is automatically enabled on dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet is pre-instantiated. In that process, init method of dispatcher servlet executed. Come on, guys. Inside that init method, logic is kept. What is kept? Inside that init method, logic is kept to create IOC container. This IOC container takes configuration class and perform pre-instantiation of singleton scope spring beans, handler mapping, view resolver, handler classes, service classes, DAO classes. Necessary injections are done among those beans and they are kept in internal cache of the IOC container for future reference. That is number two. Number three, browser generated the request having some URL. That in the URL last word is called path. Okay. Number four, dispatcher servlet trapped and taken the request, applied common system services, security logging kind. Number five, dispatcher servlet handed over the information, handed over the request to handler mapping. That is number five. Number six, dispatcher servlet. Now focus, guys. Dispatcher servlet searches for right handler method whose request path is slash info in all the @controller classes, but finds in one class. That control number seven, that controller class bean ID, that handler method signature are gathered and pass it to whom, guys? Dispatcher servlet. Are you getting my point there or not there? Number eight, dispatcher servlet collects the controller class bean ID and submits to IOC container, gets the controller class object. On that, handler method is called. What is called, guys? Handler method is called. Number nine, handler method executes. What is that, guys? On that, handler method executes. Convinced with me, my dear? Come on, everyone. Super. That is number nine. Okay. Number 10. Handler method returns what? Logical view name back to dispatcher servlet. Logical view name back to dispatcher servlet. That is 10. Logical view name is some token kind of. Number 10. That 11, that logical view name goes to view resolver. View resolver internally takes the support of XML file or property file. By submitting token, it will gather name and location of the physical view component, and it returns that name and location of physical view component in the form of what? View object. What object, guys? View object. Okay, view object is now with the dispatcher servlet. Their name and location of physical view component is there or not there? Super. It gathered those details and passed it to whom? Physical view component. Are you getting my point there, guys? So the physical view component is located and executed, boss. Their presentation logics are executed or not, guys? Their presentation logics are executed or not, guys? Come on, everyone. Okay. Their presentation logics are executed. That is number 13. The formatted results comes to whom? Dispatcher servlet. And dispatcher servlet sends those formatted results to browser. And in the browser, they will be displayed in the form of what? Dynamic web page. Tell me, flow of execution is easy or difficult? Okay. So who is helping dispatcher servlet to identify right handler method of right handler class? Who is helping that? Who is helping dispatcher servlet to identify right handler method of handler class? Huh? View resolver. Specs wala, I should murder you. I asked a simple question. Who is helping dispatcher servlet to identify right handler method of right handler class? Rare in the two times I used it right handler method of right handler class. How view resolver? That is handler mapping component armor. Who is helping dispatcher servlet to identify right view component? Okay, view resolver is viewer or view resolver is there to identify the viewer. View resolver is not view. View resolver is what? To identify the view. Handler mapping is a handler class or it is there to identify the handler class. To identify the right handler method of right handler class, we take the support of what guys? Handler mapping component. I think you understood the flow rightly guys. Handler mapping does not execute handler method of handler class, but it helps dispatcher servlet to find or identify what? Right handler method of right handler class to process the request. Okay. Calling handler method, dispatcher servlet, what is there? Dispatcher servlet directly calls the handler. Dispatcher servlet directly calls the handler method. Convinced, my dear? Come on, everyone. Okay. View resolver does not execute view component. It just helps the what? Dispatcher servlet in the identification of what? Physical view component like JSP file. Physical view component like JSP file. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Come on, everyone. Okay, guys. Okay, now, okay, these numbers are just whatever I have explained so far, guys. Nothing great. The process of deploying web application or distributed application in web server or application server is called deployment. And the process of removing application from web server or application server is called undeployment. Application server is extension of web server, na boss? Application server is web server plus plus. Are we can examples of web server. Tomcat up to 6. Tomcat up to 6. Next. Okay, no. Jetty. Jonas. What is this? Jetty. Undertow. Resin. And etc. Examples of what guys? Application servers. WebLogic. WebLogic. Tell me next one. Wildfly. JBoss. Okay na? JRun. Tomcat 7.x plus. Tomcat 7.x onwards, that is Glassfish and etc. Yeah. Okay. I want everyone to go through these numbers on your own. and feel the flow on your own. If you stuck up anywhere, let me know. I will explain the number one more time. Be fast. I'm giving 5 minutes time to you people. You go, you tell you each number on your own and let me know. Yeah, go through every number. If you stuck up anywhere, let me know. Sai Krishna, generating token. Is it the way to, you will talk in the interview room? Handler method sends logical view name as a token to dispatcher servlet. Why it is not sending physical view component name? Because if you to send you have to hard code. Tomorrow if view technology change or file name change, it will be problem na boss. That's why it is sending token in property file or XML file. We link that token with what? Real file name. So tomorrow view technology changed our file name change. I have to disturb property file, not the source code of the controller class, right? That's why very inside logical view name. Okay, right. Can you explain what's happening in 12? What's happening in 12? In rest with minor changes, almost same. Rest flow also same, but minor changes are there. Tell me. What's happening? You said you understood everything, but when I ask what's happening, 12, no one is telling. View resolver is talking to property file or XML file, submitting the logical view name, getting name and location of the physical view component. What is there? Name and location of the physical view component and sending those details back to dispatcher servlet. Sending those details back to dispatcher servlet. Are you getting my point there or not? Okay, that's great. Tell me, What's happening in step number 6? Tell me what's happening in step number 6. Tell me what's happening in line number 6, step number 6. View resolver for correct URL request path. No? Number 6, be confident and speak out, ra, Babu. If you don't speak here, how you'll speak in the interview room, ra? Be confident, right or right, wrong or wrong, tell me. Handler mapping component takes the path of the incoming request URL and searches for, is there any handler method in controller classes whose request path is matching with incoming request URL path? Whose request path is matching with what? Incoming request URL path. Once find that, tell me what it will do. Once it finds that, what happened? It will gather that controller class bean ID and handler method signature and passes to whom, guys? Dispatcher servlet. Passes to whom, guys? Dispatcher servlet. Clear, boss? Got the point, my dear? I want reply, my dear. Come on, everyone. Yeah, that's good. What's the next one? Okay. What's happening in line number 14? What's the thing that is happening in line number 14? Tell me, guys. Yeah, view component executes the presentation, Lassie. Okay, formats the result. Formatted results goes to dispatcher, Sarle. Number 15. Okay, formatted results goes to browser as a response. Number 16, those results will be displayed in the form of what? Huh? Yes, those results will be displayed in the form of dynamic web page. This is what we need to focus or not, guys. Okay. These are the flow of execution. So now I will introduce how practically we can develop one by one. How to develop the controller class, how to configure or develop view resolver, how to develop what? Or configure handler mapping component. Shall we start understanding one by one, guys? Yes. Session 2, where is session 3? Let's save this. This is the flow. In this flow, guys, if you look at this flow diagram, same diagram, somewhere single stars are there, somewhere two stars are there, that too in blue color. Where two stars are there, they should be developed by the programmer manually. Single stars are ready-made one. You should know how to configure them. You should know how to configure them. Otherwise, remaining all are same. In Spring Boot MVC application, following operation takes place automatically. You need not to develop them separately. Number one, dispatcher servlet registration, enabling load on startup on it. Dispatcher servlet registration with a servlet container having slash URL pattern and enabling load on startup. Are you doing it or it will happen automatically? Okay, this uses programmatic registration of servlet component technique. As I said, na, a servlet can be configured with a servlet container having URL pattern in three approaches. Declarative using web.xml. Next, annotation using @web servlet. Third one is programmatic. Servlet context dot add servlet method will be used. What method? Add servlet. Sir, why Spring Boot MVC uses third technique, guys? Why Spring Boot MVC uses third technique? Can you tell me, boss? Speak out. Why does it prefers using third technique? Tell me, why does it uses third technique? Spring Boot MVC does not entertain XML, so web.xml cannot be. Dispatcher servlet is a predefined servlet. We cannot add @web servlet on the predefined servlet source code. What is left? Programmatic approach. That's why it internally uses programmatic approach. Right? Okay. Dispatcher servlet created IOC container of type application context. This also happen internally by executing init method of dispatcher servlet or not. Handler mapping component configuration. We don't configure handler mapping component as a Spring Bean manually. Okay. It comes through auto configuration only. What is the default one that comes? Request mapping, handler mapping is the real class that becomes Spring Bean automatically and internally. Interesting or not there? Request mapping, handler mapping class become Spring Bean through auto configuration process. Next, view resolver configuration. What configuration? Okay. There is a predefined class called internal resource view resolver. You need not to configure it as a Spring Bean. Automatically it becomes a Spring Bean through auto configuration process. That means handler mapping, view resolver, they are there, but we never do anything explicitly. They are coming automatically through what? Okay, guys. They are coming as Spring Beans automatically through what? Auto configuration process. What process, guys? Auto configuration process. Are you getting my point there? Next. Dispatcher servlet created IOC container performs pre-instantiation of what? Singleton scope. Singleton scope, guys. Pre-instantiation of what? Singleton scope Spring Beans. Array, all these are there as Spring Beans now. So pre-instantiation of singleton scope Spring Beans takes place or not there. Among those beans, injections will take place or not there, guys. Among those beans, injections will take place or not place. Come on. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Spring Beans, service classes, controller classes, view resolver, handler mapping, DAO, repository implementation classes will be pre-instantiated or not, guys? That means they are instantiated, necessary injections are done, everything takes place. Okay, guys, tell me. Dispatch servlet is ready-made servlet component given by Spring Boot MVC API, which will be configured or registered with what? Servlet container, automatically having URL pattern slash by enabling what? Load on startup in programmatic approach of what? Servlet registration. Okay. Handler mapping component, nothing but request mapping, handler mapping. View resolver component, nothing but what? Internal resource view resolver. will become Spring Beans automatically through auto configuration process done by IOC container, which is given by whom? Dispatcher servlet. Which is seriously given by whom, guys? Dispatcher servlet. Everyone getting my point? Spring-web-version.jar. Spring-web-mvc-version.jar file represents what? Spring MVC framework or Spring Boot MVC framework. Okay. In Spring, these two are the jar files representing this. Spring-starter-web-version.jar represents what? Spring Boot starter for Spring Boot MVC application. So this starter will give about two jar files, guys. This starter will give about two jar files. Use the about two jars. About two jar files, and the starter will give about two jar files and about two jar files and other supporting jar files. Other supporting jar files. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on. Super. Yeah. Okay. Handler mapping component, request mapping, handler mapping, view resolver component, or internal resource will become Spring Beans automatically. Come on. Through auto configuration process done by IOC container, which is given by dispatcher servlet. So we don't make them as Spring Beans separately. They come through what process, guys? Auto configuration process. Dispatcher servlet is front controller servlet, which is one per project. That means for entire Spring Boot, okay, one per Spring or Spring Boot MVC. Spring or Spring Boot MVC application. Everyone getting my point there, guys? Controller or handler class is a Java class, which is one per module. Okay. Service class is what? Java class. Tell me, guys, which is one per module. DAO class is Java class, which is one per DB table. What table, guys? One per DB table. Yeah. One per Spring or Spring Boot MVC application. Controller or handler class is Java class, which is one per module. Service class is one per module. DAO is nothing but what this? Or DAO are nothing but repository. See, university project, so many modules will be there. Come on, guys. So dispatcher servlet is one per entire project. Controller handler class is one per module. Service class is one per module. DAO class is one per module. What do you say, guys? Super boss. Okay. So now try to understand controller or handler class. It is a Java class annotated with @controller. We generally take this class on what basis? One per module basis. This class can contain multiple handler method annotated with what? Request mapping having request path. So request path generally starts with slash path. The handler method can have flexible signature. That means method name, return type, params count is completely our choice. Super. Every handler method of handler class is identified with its what? Request path. Okay. Request path that is given in @request mapping annotation. We generate request to handler method by specifying what? Their request path in the request URL. by specifying their request path in the request URLs. Okay, a sample controller class, guys. Controller annotation, my controller. Okay, request mapping slash home, anything you can give. Public string show home. Return type is our choice. Method name is our choice. Parameters count and types are our choice. As per the requirement, you can take it. As per the requirement, we can take it. Okay, now listen. If this controller class is part of simple MVC application, here itself we place the request processing logic or business logic. No, it is a big application, guys. We keep business logic, persistence logic in service and DAO classes, and the handler method will just contain delegation. Delegation means passing. Delegation means not doing the work, passing the work to others. Yes, my dear. Some people takes the work and does the work. Some people will delegate the work to other people. Are you getting my point there, guys? Okay, super. See, in small web application, handler class handler method directly process the request having business logic. Whereas in medium and large scale application, the handler methods contain what? Delegation logic to interact with what? Service DAO classes. Are you getting my point there? Super. When IOC container is created, I read some notes online that says IOC container created before dispatcher servlet initialization and DS will work inside IOC container. Tushar Veer, it's a completely wrong thought. You are telling reverse, everything reverse. Tushar Veer, everything in online container is not created. Before that. This is the order. Okay, there are two things, standalone or web app. We'll get that. We'll get that. For the timing, you fix to this flow. For the timing, you fix to this flow only, right? Okay. One controller class can have any number of handler method. Every handler method is identified with its what? Request path given in @request mapping annotation. Each incoming request will be mapped to handler method based on this request path. And I said flexible signature now, my dear. Okay, there are multiple possible return types, guys. Nearly 20 plus return types are allowed for handler method. Most of them are given by keeping what? Spring REST in mind. Spring MVC. In Spring MVC, we use very few of them. Very little number return types. Check it out. Array, same starter, same module can be used to develop the RESTful web service. So most of these return types of handler method, supported return types are given by keeping what? A RESTful web service in mind. Okay, na? Right. The most regularly used return type is what? String. Why? Handler method has to return what? Logical view name. Logical view name means token. Token is always string na, my dear. That's why. View, map, model, right? All these are possible, guys. But most regularly used is what? This. Similarly, according to the need, you can take 25 plus number of parameters. But in that one, most regularly used are request response session, @request param, @request header. Okay, map is the best of the best. Map is the best. Okay, @model attribute sometimes. Errors and binding result in some special cases. Okay. Remaining all are given by keeping Spring REST in mind. Spring MVC or Spring Boot MVC is the module. In that one, starting 50% is used for website development. Last 50% is extension of first 50% will be used to develop RESTful web services. Handler method of controller class or handler class can have zero or more parameter. We generally take them as per the need as needed. Okay. In Spring Boot MVC application, we place controller classes under what? Root package, where at the rate Spring Boot application class is placed. Then the controller classes will be scanned automatically by IOC container to make them as what? Spring Beans. Without using component scan, they should be scanned automatically means what? It's better to keep under the sub packages of the main class. So that what happens, guys? Because of component scan that is there in at the rate Spring Boot application annotation, all current package and sub packages will be scanned automatically. By recognizing stereotype annotation classes, they will be made Spring Beans automatically or not, guys? They will be made Spring Beans automatically or not, guys? Are you understanding my statement, guys? Okay. Yes. Remaining components. Now I have introduced handler mapping. Then I'll introduce view resolver. One by one, I will introduce through code with a lot of presentation. Then we will become ready for our first application development. One thing is clear. Flow is fixed because everything is happening through dispatcher servlet. Okay, some classes are coming through auto configuration. By just developing view component and handler classes, we are able to completely develop the website. So lot of burden is removed from the programmer or not there. Out of so many component, how many things we have to develop? Only two. One is handler classes, having handler method. Okay, number two, view resolver. That's it. Remaining everything is ready-made directly or indirectly. This definitely removes the burden on the programmer, no doubt in that. Okay, guys. Yeah, come here. Sayed, when this course is going to complete? Okay. Tomorrow itself. Don't come from day after tomorrow. Yes, I know you have your own plans. Okay. I said a total 120 sessions will come. Remove starting 10 session. Okay, just deduct. And few classes extra also don't mind. Okay, na?